So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to HDR Researcher Journeys. I am Vee, and I hope you all are having a good day so far. So joining me today is my co-host Katya and our guests, school librarians Leonide, Karen, and Ria. And I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. And I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. So today we are talking about, what are we talking about? Yes. We're talking about what treasures Western libraries hide, and no, not the books, perhaps the books, but more importantly, the HDR library and the literature resources. So firstly, I would like to thank Leonide for helping us through with organizing this, and also like to thank our guests, Ria and Karen. So before we begin, I thought it would be good for you guys to introduce yourself a little bit. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Well, if that's okay, guys, I'll start and I'll pass over to you. Hi, everybody. I'm Leontine. I'm the education librarian and the graduate research school librarian, which means that I work closely with the HDR students and the academics in those schools when they require support for whatever reason, whether it be curriculum design or research or teaching and learning. And often I'm asked questions I don't know the answer to. So I'm also the person that's very good at saying, I'll find that out for you. So I'll pass over now to one of my lovely colleagues, Ria.
Hi everyone, my name's Ria Hamblett and I'm the library's Research Engagement Coordinator, Outreach. So my role at the library is entirely sort of focused on research support and researcher development and outreach activities across the university. So I sort of help coordinate the school librarian team in terms of their activities related to research and also initiate university-wide training and researcher development opportunities and engagement.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen Shea. I'm the acting school librarian for the Marx Institute, also the Hawkesbury Institute for the Environment and the School of Science. I'm the same as Leontine. I'm working very closely with the PhD students and with the academics in teaching and curriculum design and so on. And Leontine and I, we always should be your first point of contact if you run into any troubles with the library. You know, just come straight to your school librarian. So I'll hand back to Vee. We'll get more into what we can do.
Thank you, Karen. So if you're new to the webinar, you can see on your bottom, you'll see Q&A section where you can post your questions. And I believe you'll also see the chat section to chat amongst each other. And yeah, that's all from me. You guys can present your presentations now. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, I might share my screen. This is always a lottery, so let's see how we go with this. The PowerPoint, oh, look at that. Whenever I work with two screens, it really is
Good job.
Just luck, whether it works or not. So welcome everybody to today's research support presentation. We're going to talk to you a little bit today about the ways the library can support your research journey. With me today, as you have just seen, are Ria and Karen. So the three of us have come along to speak to the ways the library supports researchers and research-related activities, things you might need along the way. What I would like to start with, though, is to just outline what we're going to run over today, just so everybody's on the same page. We're going to have a look at the library webpage and have a look at some of the features of it. We're going to introduce to you the school librarians, and they are your dedicated librarians. There's one for each of the schools. Whichever school you're attached to, there is someone who can help you find the answers you need. And then at the end, we're going to outline where to find help when it's required. We understand that everybody here today is at a different part of their research journey. So we're going to keep it relatively general, but we will be very, very happy to answer questions on specific issues further on in the presentation. One of the things I'd like to bring up before we get too far in is to think about where you are in your journey and when in that journey the library could be of assistance to you. So I've written down some milestones along the way, whether you're a master's student or a PhD student. There are different times you may or may not have realised the library could be a way to support you. So when you're doing your early candidature plan, for example, you could come and see us, or the confirmation of candidature, or whether you're doing a literature narrative or a systematic review, the library can help you in different ways. Searching and reading, each step along the way of your project. When it comes to writing, when it comes to referencing, we have lots of different ways we can assist you with that. And then right down near the end, we come to that wonderful moment when you decide to publish, and we can also be of assistance. We're going to go into each of those support tools in detail in the upcoming slides. Each school, as I said, has a dedicated school librarian. Now, can I just confirm, can Ria and Karen, can you nod? You're seeing the presentation and not my...
Yeah, I was just about to say that we're actually seeing the notes. We're seeing the presentation with the notes alongside. Yeah, I just realised, because I'm used to seeing the presenters.
Yeah. I might...
Yeah,
That
there you go. That's better.
Oh, better.
Much better, because I was thinking you don't want all those notes. That's just to help me along the way. So each of the schools has a dedicated librarian, and it's really important for you to meet them and to make contact with them, because they are a great resource for you. As Karen said, when you have a question, you contact us. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm very good. If I don't know the answer, I will try and find the person who does. And we have different expert teams within the library in different areas, whether it be acquisitions or research. So we are here to help you along the way. Your school librarian can support your searching and can offer you support with different ways to search and developing a good solid search strategy for you so your time's effective. Can help you access resources. We pay for different resources, different access to databases so that you can get through into resources you can't necessarily just access from home through Google. We can show you how to access more scholarly resources. We can help you when it comes time to managing and publishing your data, and Ria's going to be speaking to that a bit later on and sharing her knowledge with that. We can help you establish your identity. So that's your online profiles. They are becoming increasingly imperative and integral to developing yourself as a researcher in your career. So building your online presence, and then with your impact and the way that you are affecting the field you work in, how you are changing practice, we can help you to track that later on. When it comes to searching for information, whether you're a master's student or a PhD student, and wherever you are, there are different ways you can access information. The library search box is the first place many people go. It will access everything we are able to get that's in the catalogue or that we've got access to. Maybe that's not necessarily as targeted a place for you to search as the e-resources part of the library. That's the subject guides and databases. As I said, we pay for different access levels for you so that you can get items you can't necessarily just get from a general search. If you're doing a PhD or even a master's, you might want to have a look at the layout, the format of a thesis, so that you can read one, see what they look like and feel comfortable with the structuring of your own one. We have a couple of ways you can do that through the library. We have ResearchDirect, which is our Western Sydney University institutional repository. You can also access through Trove. You can look at Australian ones. And then there's ProQuest that you can go and visit. And we can show you how to do that to see international ones. So perhaps you've come from a different university or from a different country, and you can do a bit of a comparison and see how they look one place to another. There's also, depending on the kind of research you're doing, you may wish to access grey literature, which you can get through Google Scholar and Google, and we can show you how to do that, how to set up ways to harvest that information. And grey literature is that literature which is not scholarly and peer reviewed, but can be really helpful. It could be a grey paper or white paper or a government policy, something that you wouldn't necessarily get in a journal or a scholarly book, but could be of super value to what you're researching. And then, of course, one of the services we offer is document delivery, and that can be super handy as a researcher. If you find something, often it's at 2 a.m, that you cannot get through to, you cannot access, we have a service called document delivery, where you can apply for us to to purchase that or to borrow that from another library for you. And that's available to staff and high degree research students. So we can show you, your school librarian can show you how to access that if you haven't already used it. When it comes to searching, not everything is the same, and depending on your field, some databases, some searching strategies will be more effective than others. And your school librarian is trained in how to support your field. As an education researcher, I can help education PhD students find and target the items that are really effective for them. We can show you how to create keyword search strings and to track citations. One of the things that is really important when you're researching is setting up how to get an alert, for example, in Google Scholar. You may not know how to do that, or in a database, and we can show you how to do that. And we can talk to you about the methodologies you're using, and we can sort of support you with that once you make that decision, and that's a big decision for you to make. You can see that down the left-hand side of the screen, we have the grey drop-down menu from the main library page. We can go into that live after the presentation and we'll show you. So if you've been into the library page, the grey banner across the top has the drop-down menu, which offers you all the different layers of the library page. There's so many and lots of ways that you can access information. This one is the services one. I recommend you spend a bit of time here if you're a high degree researcher, because lots of our services are available to you. So you can see that there's all different ones. I'm going to pass over, I realise now, to my lovely colleague Karen, who's going to talk to you about our academic integrity service called StudySmart.
Thanks, Leontine. Yeah, the StudySmart service is something run by Western Sydney. I don't know if any of you have had any experience with it yet, but it's a place where you can bring your writing, your reading, your researching questions, and you can get some immediate feedback. It's offered in a number of ways. In the old days, we used to offer it in the library as a service desk. You could just walk right in and get some help. Today, you can get help online, and you can book a Zoom appointment for someone to sit with you and talk you through your writing. So if you're wanting just some academic writing feedback, it's a service that I recommend you use. On top of that, if you're looking to kind of look after yourself and your own academic writing, there's a lot of resources that are available on the StudySmart website in a list of like help sheets and PDFs that'll help you through. In particular, things that at the start of your PhD, like your literature review, or if you're doing a systematic review or something like that, we have some advice documents to get you started. Sometimes it's down to learning the tone and the purpose and the structure of what you're about to write. Or if you're writing in an unfamiliar format, like a case study or something like that, you can, or a report or an essay, whatever it is, if it's unfamiliar, there's a lot of guidance there in our tip sheets of sorts. So you can help yourself and you can chat online, and if not, you can actually make an appointment to get that one-on-one intensive help with your writing. It's available all the way through to your PhD, so it's a service that I recommend you use. These are highly intelligent people who are able to give you some good feedback on your writing. Can we go to the next slide, please, Leontine? And the big one that we want to talk to you about is reference management. And as you grow to be writing your PhD, your reference list is going to grow into the hundreds, and you simply can't be doing it by hand anymore. You need a good tool to help you. The library supports EndNote, and it's a fantastic desktop tool that will manage your references, catalogue them, and so on. You can group them, and it's something you download it for free from the library website, and we can support you in getting the most out of that. Again, we used to run face-to-face sessions, but if EndNote's something you've used and you've thought, this isn't really that useful, or if you've had a look at it and not been sure of its capability, I recommend you get in touch with your school librarian and get onto it early, because it will change your life. It's such a great tool, and it will make things so much easier for you when it comes to just producing your reference list at the end. So EndNote's available through the guides section, through the referencing citation. There are training guides on there, and there's thousands and thousands of online resources to support you as well if you can't get hold of someone. So
if I can also advertise something, Karen, the GRS runs the library run with the Graduate Research School a series of workshops, and we actually have an EndNote one that we developed very recently, that if you keep your eye out, if it's something that you are interested in using, you could keep your eye out for the advertisement of that, and you're welcome to come along. It's a 2-hour webinar, just as same structure as this, where you can offer your question forward. So I just thought I would mention that while we're on this page.
Good one. But I'll give to Ria now. She can talk research.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm now looking at another of the drop-down menus under the word researchers. So when you hover over that word on the library main site, you'll come up with this drop-down menu that you can see on the left there. And the first box at the top of this drop-down menu is where you access ResearchDirect. So ResearchDirect, as Leontine mentioned earlier, is the name of Western Sydney University's institutional repository. So all the publications, all the research outputs, I should say, so publications, but also data sets that are created by Western Sydney staff and students are processed into our institutional repository. So this is where you can go to see an entire output of what's happened here at Western Sydney. But once these records are in ResearchDirect, they're actually harvested by Google and Google Scholar and Trove, which means that it really increases the visibility of these research outputs. So whenever a new researcher comes to work at Western Sydney, one of the first things that happens is the library research team gets their CV and they process all their publications and research outputs into this repository where they become accessible to the rest of the world. So the other thing, you can self-submit a publication here at ResearchDirect once you get to the point of publishing, or we also have a number of automatic alerts. So if you are writing publications and you're affiliating to Western Sydney University, we generally get alerted when those items are published, and they'll get self-processed or automatically processed by our team into the repository. It's also, so you can see those coloured buttons, submit a publication, submit a research data set. It's also where you'll come to create a data management plan for your research project, or down the bottom, the blue one, where you can search for published research data sets that have been produced by staff or students here at Western Sydney. And those data set records are pushed to Research Data Australia. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about data on the next slide, I think. Leontine, is that right? We go click. Yep. Okay. So the first thing is to mention here is that the university's research data management policy actually states that every researcher at the university, both students and staff, must create a data management plan prior to the beginning of their research project. So that little red button, data management plan, that's where you'd go to create that. That's a tool that steps you through all the questions that you need to answer in order to create your data management plan. We also run data management training sessions every month online. We've actually just done the last one for the year, happened on Friday last week, but they'll start up again probably in January or February, and they happen every month. And you can come along and work out what is the importance of a data management plan, how is it really beneficial to me as a researcher, and what are the steps I need to understand in order to create a comprehensive plan. So keep an eye on the research events calendar or the HDR workshops calendar for the next data management training session. And of course, there's a real push towards publishing your data sets as a standalone research output. So not just journal articles, but the data set of what you've created during your research project. So you can submit your research data set here and publish it with the university. And of course, that's gaining in sort of popularity, but there's also a number of journal publishers and funders that are starting to mandate for it. So it's worth thinking about it. And as I mentioned earlier, all our research data sets are pushed to Research Data Australia, and that means that that's a repository of data sets from all over the world, and you can go and search for existing data sets there too. So those last two buttons on that researchers drop-down menu, the data management plan, that will take you to the library's guide to data management. It's got a number of really useful tabs there, and one of them is about sourcing research data. So you might want to have a think at the very beginning of your project, do I even need to create my own data, or are there currently data sets in existence that I could mine and use just to support my own project? So it's worth having a look there and having a talk to your school librarian about that. What else do I need to mention? The ARDC. Yeah, okay, that's the Australian Research Data Commons, which is a sort of a national collaborative data commons for research throughout Australia. there's more information about that on the Data Management Library Guide. So I've probably mentioned it enough. If you want to learn more, please get in touch or have a read there. Do I have another slide? Oh, okay. Yep, publishing. So we also offer advice around strategic publishing. So working out how to identify which are the best journals to publish my research in, both in terms of journal metrics, which ones are sort of the highest impact journals, but also which are the journals that are most relevant. How do I get my research out to the right communities who I want to read and hopefully work with and cite my research? So we offer strategies around the best ways to do that. And we've got information on that publishing tab about how the red flags that you need to look out for to avoid predatory journals if you're thinking about publishing open access, as well as predatory conferences. And we have this really amazing tool called Journal Finder, which lists all the journals on the current ERA list. It's got about 25,000 journals in this tool. And you can use it to search for journals by a particular FOR code, a particular field of research code, which just means subject area, as well. And you can see a range of journal metrics and their open access policies and a number of things all in one place on this Journal Finder tool. So have a chat to your school librarian if you're interested to learn more about Journal Finder. What else? Do I have any? Okay. Research profiles. All right. And the last thing is that we offer you some help with establishing your online researcher profile and tips for sort of managing and maintaining that profile effectively, so you're getting yourself noticed and people are having a direct line to you and your sort of outputs as a researcher. So there's two researcher profile systems that we really highly encourage you to get on top of. The first one of those is an ORCID ID, which is sort of like your personal code as a researcher. It's an ID number a profile that you set up for yourself, and no matter whether or not you change institutions or you possibly change your name or maybe even change your research area, your ORCID ID stays with you, and you can list all your publications and all your sort of research activity on it, and it's sort of like an online CV in a way. But it's a really easy way for somebody just to click one little hyperlink and see everything about you as a researcher. So we have library FAQs to help you set that up, and your school librarian is also a good source of help. And then the second one, once you actually have published something and Google Scholar has found an article of yours and you're appearing in the Google Scholar search results, once that has happened, you can also set up a Google Scholar profile. And this way you can make sure that all your publications are entered and attached correctly to your name. There's a couple of things you need to do to maintain it, to make sure that, you know, people with a similar name to yours aren't having their publications accidentally attached to your profile. But again, it's a really great international platform for people to easily discover you and your work without having to navigate an academic database. So those are the two really key researcher profiles that you want to be thinking about down the track. And that's probably enough from me.
It is so we move on now to thanks, Ria. The list of school librarians. As I said, there's one for each of the schools, and here they are. They're all really nice and they're all really skilled in their particular field. And so I urge you to connect with your school librarian. You can see on the bottom there, we've even put Ria. She's our researcher. As you can see, she's an expert in that field. So connect with them. As the graduate research school librarian, if you're not sure who your school librarian is, please contact me and I can connect you. So each of the links, each of the things we've spoken about today will be sent to V, and he'll send them out to each of you participants. So you don't have to try and remember everything that we've said today, because that's been an extremely broad and general set of information. And what I expect now is that there'll be some questions where we can drill down into some of the information we've given you. So I'm going to stop my share and we'll have a look at what's in the Q&A box. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. So everyone, if you can see the Q&A section at the bottom, you can ask us questions. And while everyone is typing up their questions, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Firstly, I heard that the funding for EndNote was coming to an end. That's what I heard as a rumor just flying around.
I have not heard that. Has anybody heard that?
News to
As far
me.
as I know, the library's continuing to support EndNote. We haven't been told any different.
I will say funding restrictions are affecting some of the services in the library, and we are waiting yet to see exactly what the shape the library will have in 2021. But to our knowledge, EndNote remains strong.
I also have a question, because I was asking to have a book, an ebook bought for my research, a new one, and I also heard that about the restrictions, you know, the budget freeze or whatever. Is there any idea? I mean, probably not, but still asking, how long that will last, and if there's like maybe a, you know, something like a budget allocated to each PhD student at some point in the future?
Can I answer that? I don't know if I'm particularly qualified to answer that, but I know that at the moment, we are not purchasing resources for anything other than teaching. For yourself, if the resource is necessary for your research, then we'd like to try and get it through document delivery, I think, first. But if not, you should submit the request anyway, because from what I understand, there's a little bit of discretion. The money hasn't been completely turned off, and even if it sits there as a wish list, then it's worth doing, and that's available on the services menu.
I did that, and I got the response, no money.
Yeah,
Probably worth an email to your school librarian or to me, Katja, and we can have a little discussion about it, because
I got the email from the school librarian.
Oh,
I tried, that's why I'm like, I tried everything, and I just want to know if in some point in the future there will be a bit more.
it will, and things went, I will say that things went very, very tight for a little while, and now they're beginning to ease off a little bit. So it is worth resubmitting. We are not in control of the funds, and we can't say.
Yeah, no, I know.
But we certainly, I'm not afraid of being a pest to our ethics department, and I'm sure Karen's not either.
All right, next time I'll get in touch with
guys.
you.
Yeah, we that's what we do. They love to hear from us, so yeah, it's always worth having another go at it.
Thank you. And so the first question we have here is, can a student request a scan of a chapter that is being physically held in a university collection?
So an international student, can they request a scan of a chapter? That's for you guys, not me. I'm not sure.
An international student?
I don't think the person really matters. I think the moral of the question is,
Yeah,
suppose there's a book in, say Hawkesbury, and they want a chapter, but that isn't available digitally. So can anyone in the library scan it and pass it on?
Look, as a rule of thumb, Karen, you might agree with me. It's a case-by-case situation. So we'd look at the circumstances of that student, which is why I asked first if they were international. So it's worth contacting your school librarian. But as a rule, I'd probably say that's probably not a service we offer to onshore students who are able to access the library in person. Would you agree, Karen?
Yeah, I think that's my understanding of the policy at the moment too. It's not really available. However, there's all sorts of situations that are keeping people out of Sydney, out of libraries, and out of the universities at the moment more than ever. And where I've seen situations where we've been able to make allowances for that. As have I. So it's worth having a chat to your school librarian and seeing if your particular circumstances suit our capacity to scan that for you.
And the next question is, can we access any tutorials or recorded workshops related to data management plan preparation?
The answer is yes. So there is some information on that library guide, as I mentioned, the Research Data Management Library Guide. But there's also, I recorded a series of researcher development webinars that are available until the end of session, so sort of until the end of this year. And they're available on the Research Training 2020 Views site. And if you're in the Views site on the research training, down the left-hand side, there's a tab that says GC Ready Guest Lecture Series. And there's quite a number of webinars in there, but I did a few of them, and one of them was on research data management. So it's a good starting point. It's not as comprehensive as the sessions that we run every month. And the beauty of the sessions that we run every month is that it's not just me, there's also representatives from ITDS who can help you with your working data storage on your HPC computing and that sort of thing. And also a representative from from the Office of Research Integrity and Ethics to answer any questions about ethics proposals or participant consent or working with sensitive data. So that's the beauty of those collaborative sessions. But yes, that is available to you as a pre-recorded option, but will only be available to the end of the year at this point. We'll do them again next semester, next session.
Thanks, Rhea. So the next question is from an MRes student who has co-authored a lot of papers. And, you know, when they usually get an email saying people are reading your publications. So the person is asking, what does that really mean? Apart from people are reading your stuff.
Where are you getting the notifications from? Can they answer or not?
They should be able to answer. You can either answer in the chat or in the Q&A section.
There's two possibilities. Are you on something like Academiaedu, which is one of those sort of social networking sites for researchers? And they often send sort of enticing little advertisements telling you that your name's been mentioned or somebody's reading you. But if it's the situation that Leontine and Karen were both referring to, where you're, you can, for example, in Google Scholar, you can set up an alert for your name or for your publications, which tells you when people are citing your publications, you'll get an alert. And that's true for different databases too, is it not, School Librarians? Yes. So
yeah, sorry, I'm
just
going in to see if I could share the screen and show it. But yes, I won't try to go into the screen and show it as show and tell. You are right, for some databases as well as Google Scholar.
So I guess it's exciting because it's a precursor to a citation, right? Like people have to read your work and be interested in it to want to cite it. So it's exciting to know that people have at least read the title or the abstract and clicked on it and gone, that's interesting to me. So yeah, have you guys got anything to add to that one?
No, I would just say be aware, as you said, be aware of where it's coming from, the notification. It is lovely, but sometimes it's a tease from Academia just to get you to go back into your Academia profile.
That's right. So Academia.edu and ResearchGate, they're both social media platforms for researchers. I have an Academia.edu profile simply because I talk about it in the researcher profile sessions that I do, and I wanted to have a look at the back end of it and see how it all worked. I'm not a researcher. I don't have any publications. They email me about once a week telling me that somebody's mentioned my name in a new exciting paper, and if I just pay them this little bit of extra money, I'll be able to upgrade and see the metrics. So yeah, just be aware. Some of them are literally marketing ploys.
Thank you.
The next question is any possibility to get, well, first someone is thanking for the great session, everyone. And the question is, any possibility to get feedback for our literature review chapter? I presume from the library.
So I'm guessing it's anything they write down. Can they have it checked?
The StudySmart service will offer you general advice, either face-to-face via Zoom or online. If you use the online part of the service, that will take usually around 24 to 48 hours to offer you some general advice back. It's not an editing service as such, so be aware that if you're looking for an editor, that's a conversation with GRS. But if you're looking for general academic writing advice, the StudySmart service is one that you can access. For a chapter in a lit review is a perfect example of an item that might be useful for that service.
But they're not going to look into the content as such, right?
They won't discuss the content as such. They'll talk about the structure and quite general things. So yeah, different from an editor who will give you really fine point detail.
Thank you. So the next question is, someone has just co-authored a chapter that has been published. So should that person go to ResearchDirect directly, upload it there, or should the person contact the library first?
So it depends. If you have affiliated to Western Sydney as your main affiliation on the paper, then it's likely we'll get an alert and it will go in there without you having to do anything. But you can submit it directly at ResearchDirect. You don't have to contact the library, but I would just ask that you do a search for it in ResearchDirect first, just to make sure it's not already there, because we do get those automatic alerts from a lot of places. So always just check the title of the paper or your name and yeah, make sure it's not there. But you're welcome to just click on that purple button on ResearchDirect and submit it yourself. Yeah, and and you don't need to worry too much. Just get the main details in there. The form prompts you for a whole bunch of questions, but just get the main details in there. And if there's anything that's missing, the research engagement team will get in touch with you to follow it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next question is why only a few, or why a few journals access are not available for offshore international students?
I think we'd like to know if there's something that you need for your research that we haven't provided access to. So if that person is a GRS student, could they please get in touch with Leontine? She can look into what's not available for you. If not, speak to your school librarian and we'll look into that for you.
Because there should not be a difference between accessing it online from inside Australia or somewhere else, right?
Yeah,
if you have a student account. Yeah.
That being said, there are sometimes some screwy off-campus issues, but we can generally report those and overcome them.
So I'll be sharing email accesses and everything else that Leontine will pass me on, so that should be good. So the next question is, if someone sets up an Orchard account, can they add prior publications to it?
Yes, you can pretty much add whatever you like to your ORCID profile. Yes, you can self-populate. You can, well, there's a few different ways of doing it, and we have several FAQs on the library website. Actually, that's a slide we didn't show, Leontine, with the how to contact us buttons, but there's a link to FAQs on the library website, and if you search for ORCID on there, you'll get a number of prompts. For example, it will tell you how to, if you already have a Google Scholar profile, you can download your publications from that into ORCID, or if you have a Scopus or Web of Science author profile, you can automatically populate your ORCID that way, but you can also manually do it. And yes, your ORCID is yours to sort of design as you want. So if you really want to, you can add anything such as blog posts or less formal, not necessarily scholarly works. You can put whatever you like in the publication section. There's tabs for your education, qualification, grant fundings, any peer review activity you've been involved in, any sort of membership and service activity. So it's really, obviously you want to curate a picture of you as a researcher, but there's a number of different tabs that you can populate however you like. Yeah.
So while we are waiting for the next slide, I was wondering, what is a predatory journal or predatory conference? Because that's the first time I've heard it.
Well, you've probably heard about the open access movement, have you? Yeah. So we've even touched on today the fact that there's, if you're not associated with an institution such as a university, you might not be able to access full text scholarly literature. You find often they're stuck behind paywalls. And so the open access movement seeks to rectify that. You know, there's a belief that scientific knowledge should be available to anyone, doesn't matter whether you're a researcher or a scholar or just a member of the public. And often because so much research is funded by the taxpayer via government grants, there's an ethical question around the fact that publicly funded research should be publicly available. So the open access movement seeks to ensure that if you publish in an open access journal, there's no paywalls involved. You can just access the full text for no charge. But of course, the big publishers that run the scholarly publishing landscape, they still want a way to make money. So one of the models that they have come up with for open access publishing is, instead of charging the person who wants to read it, they charge the author to publish it. And so they have these things called APCs, article processing charges. And as an author, it's not true for all open access journals, but oftentimes you have to pay a fee to publish in that journal. And because that has happened, there's also been a rise in this situation of predatory publishers, which is sort of unethical publishers whose main aim is to just collect the APC money, but they're not necessarily reputable journals. So you might get these emails saying, oh my gosh, your research is amazing. We want you to publish in this special issue. Could you please be an editor for our great journal? But really they're just wanting to collect the APC money. So we have a number of resources around how to identify if a journal is predatory. And then but more what I prefer to do is to work out how do you look for the best quality journals in your field. And if you're looking that way, you're going to automatically weed out the predatory publishers as well. And it's the same sort of situation for conferences that you have to pay a lot of money to attend. You want to make sure that they're reputable, that they're a good step in your career, and they're worth the money that you're possibly going to spend on them. So yeah, that's
my question that I was actually wanting to ask, and you just mentioned it, and it's a great follow-up. How do I mean, I know there are different level of quality journals, but what I'm still don't know, how do I find that out? Which journal is which?
Yes.
I know I understand the peer review and all that, but still, there seems to be, yeah, sorry.
Okay. Do you mean in terms of where you're going to publish?
Well, yeah, because
like looking for journals.
The tier level, is that tier 1, tier 2, or something?
Like quartile, like Q1, Q2, yeah, quartiles.
Yes, that's
so
the
Q1,
one.
Q2.
How do I find which journal is in which queue?
Okay, so well, that tool Journal Finder will show you. So you can type in a journal name, and the beauty about that is you can have a quartile rank from different sources. So all Scopus journals, they have a particular ranking system, Q1 or Q2 journals, according to a company called SJR. Whereas if a journal's indexed in Web of Science, they have another tool, the Journal Impact Factor, and they rank quartiles in terms of that way. But Journal Finder is really good because you can see both the quartiles side by side, no matter if they're from Scopus or Web of Science. So Leontine's just brought up Journal Finder there. You can either search via the field of research code over on the left-hand side if you want to browse journals, or if she scrolled down a little bit, you'd see a search box where you could literally enter the title of a journal, and it will bring up a whole range of journal metrics. Because the thing about metrics is you can't ever rely on just one metric, because they all sort of have limitations and sort of inherent flaws and that sort of thing. But if you have a journal that you can see has a range of good metrics, then that tells a good story. But I always feel like that the metrics is just one part of the equation, and really the most important one is who's reading this journal. Are they the people that are going to find your work useful, relevant? They're the ones who are going to want to read it, build on it, cite it, etc. So I think I always suggest you look at what are the journals that you read a lot. What are the journals that are appearing in your reference list? They're likely to be very relevant sources for you. Or you could do a subject search in somewhere like Scopus, quite a specific subject search, and just work out what are the journal titles that appear frequently. Maybe I need to look into those journals. So, and asking your peers and your colleagues, where are you publishing? So you sort of create this short list of names that look really good, and then you can go to somewhere like Journal Finder to check out the metrics and open access policies and all that sort of thing, and start to build up a strategy from there.
Thank you, Rhea. So we have a question. So is adding the chapter to ResearchDirect same as making it available in the library?
No. So it'll be available. Sorry, guys, am I hogging this? Do you want to answer some?
Go for it.
You happy?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. So putting it in ResearchDirect means we're collecting everything from Western Sydney in one place, and from there it goes to Google and Google Scholar. It's going to appear in the library catalogue if we have a subscription to that particular journal. So if we, the library subscribes to thousands of different journals so that you guys can have full text access to it. And if your article appears in one of those journals, then it will appear in the library catalogue. Does that make sense? So it's sort of two different things going on there.
Yeah, I guess that made sense. Thanks. Any other questions?
There is one kind of question in the chat, interested in increasing research, search, and organizational skills.
I think that's for the poll that I put up.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
Can-
I actually I got a question because something that I mean, yeah. One thing I would like to understand is there's an ebook at another university within Australia, but I've been told that it's not possible to get it to me. Can anyone explain to me why?
I would no, because we have a couple of, I'm just thinking, Ria, you might know, but in many cases we can borrow from another library. We have agreements. In addition to that, it is possible for you as a researcher to become a member of another university library.
Oh.
So you can join another library and you can borrow from them with restricted. It's quite restricted.
Oh, cool.
Because it's ULANs, right, guys? Karen?
Yes.
Yes,
so
I believe so.
You can be a member of that library. I'm not sure exactly the limit of your privileges when you join your second library. But often we can get items. So once again, case by case, it would be great to have a talk about what that item is that you can't get, and we can see if we can find it somewhere else or if it's hidden somewhere, or and it's worth looking at it closely, because I'm surprised. Ria or Karen, do you have any suggestions as to why we might not be able to get it?
I can just forward you the email I received about that. I managed to get the book now because a friend of mine is actually studying at this university. So, you know, I had luckily, but if it wouldn't have been the case, there would have been a bit, you know, frustrating.
Well, yeah, and the ebook
Correct.
situation. Sorry, the ebook situation is frustrating, and again, I blame it on the publishers, because when you purchase an ebook, you purchase a particular license. So if that other university has got a license, that means they're not allowed to share it, then they just can't legally do it. So it's about, and some, I know that some of the ebooks that we buy, the only license that we can afford, because they're literally in the tens of thousands sometimes of dollars per year, it might mean that there's only allowed a certain number of users at one time, for example. So depending on the type of license that they've negotiated with the publisher will depend on what they're legally allowed to do.
Okay, that makes sense, because it's a whole book.
Yeah,
that might be the issue. Okay, cool, excellent, thank you. That makes me less frustrated.
It's look, actually, I will say one thing. I mentioned the research data management training session that's on views. There's also one on strategic publishing. There's also one on metrics and altmetrics, and there's also one on open access. And for me, the open access movement is something that I feel like every researcher and research student should be screaming from the rafters about, because it's so important. So the more you learn about it, the more you see how the scholarly publishers have got this industry stitched up, and we need to flip it. And what you're talking about, ebook access, is one of those frustrating things. So yeah. The more you yell.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen just briefly again, just to show you, in addition to the wonderful presentations that Ria's done, we have some resources in the library that are very easy on those topics. So I'm just going to share. Once again, good luck. Hopefully it works. Hopefully you're seeing the page now. In our e-resources, now I'm a big fan of a quick link when there's a quick link, so I live in here. So if I go into subject guides, down to general guides, you'll see that there's open educational resources there. There's open access. Where is it? It's there. There it is. Open access publishing. These are all guides with information and resources about these items. There's Google Scholar. There's systematic reviews. There's research data management. So in addition to the presentations that Ria's done, you can find some items, some resources on the library website, just in the subject guides or in the e-resources, it's the same page. So once again, contact your school librarian, have a chat, because there's lots of different ways depending on the way you work. Everybody has a different work style. So you may prefer to listen to a presentation, or you may prefer to read something depending on the way you work.
So I guess that's all for today. I hope this webinar was informative for everyone. Once again, I'd like to thank Leontine, Karen, and Rhea. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
us.
Thank you.
And this was the last webinar for this year, so we'll be starting again next year, as me and Katya and everyone else will be working on a conference for next year. So have a good year, and hopefully the next year will be better than this one.
Have a good holiday,
Thanks,
everyone.
Bea.
Yeah.
Remember to take
Thank
a
you.
break.
Gotcha.